Hi, this is Vinay. I am working as an Informatica developer around 8 years. In this video, I am going to explain about the introduction part for the Informatica online training part. Here is the course content for Informatica online training. So the objective of the course is like we'll be going through the concepts of data warehousing in the beginning, ability to design and develop complex mappings, configure workflows with real-time environment, troubleshooting the errors and failures, and gain some hands-on experience with multiple exercises and various real-time scenarios, build confident flexible work areas and efficient Informatica developer and concept. The prerequisite for the course is like good to have basics of SQL knowledge, and the duration will be like 30 to 35 hours with 1 hour a day, and weekend dash will also be provided. An installation of software will be taking remote access of your system and do the installation of Informatica with Oracle database. An online medium will be taking Google meeting and WebEx meeting. And once the meeting is done or the session is done, we'll be sharing the documents and the recording part of the session will be shared. Online test. So we'll be conducting online tests in middle and in end of the course, so that we'll just know like how far you are able to understand the training part. And here is the course content for complete Informatica course. So we'll be starting with basics of data warehousing in the first level, where we'll be covering like what is a data warehouse, what is the difference between the data warehouse and the database, and what are the benefits of data warehouse, and why do we design data warehouse, and what are OLTP and OLAP systems, what is dimension modeling, and what is fact table, and different types of schemas like start schema, slope schema, slowly changing dimension concepts like SCD1, SCD2, and SCD3, data math. So this covers the basic concepts of data warehousing concepts. And in the second level, we will be going through the Informatica tool. Once installation is done, we will be checking like what are the different components available in Informatica tool, and check like what is the Informatica Power Center Designer, what is the costume manager, what is workflow manager. And in the third level, we'll start using the creation of workflows and creation of sessions and creation of relational connections and ODBC connections using Informatica tool. And in the fourth level, we'll start like creation of mappings and like checking like what are different types of transformations available in Informatica, working with flag files, working with XML files, working with delimited flag files, and everything will be discussed in the fourth level. And in the fifth level, the most important part, like transformations part, there are 15 transformations available in Informatica. Like one is, we'll be starting with definition of transformations and classification of transformations. After that, we'll be starting like each transformation and a demo example, and the documentation part, the properties part will be discussed for each transformation. So these are only 15 transformations available in Informatica. And in the next level, we'll be covering advanced ETL part, where we'll be covering like what it is, how we schedule jobs, debugging, and session properties, error handling, performance tuning, and implementation of SCD, slowly changing dimensions, and different types of tasks available in Informatica like session task, command task, email task, decision task, and event wait task. How do we partition the jobs and everything. So this covers the complete course content for Informatica. I'll just go through the basics of like data warehouse. So what is a data warehouse? So to see a basic definition, data warehouse is a subject-oriented, integrated, non-volatile, time-variant collection of data in support of management decisions. And what is subject-oriented? So integrated, and we'll just see the characteristics of data warehouse, like what is integrated. So for suppose I have a business where I'm just running a sales business. I do have a different databases. One is located in sales Hyderabad, and one is sales in Hyderabad. It's an SQL Server database, and it is an Oracle Server database. I just want to extract this data and load into a data warehouse. So here we are integrating the data and loading into the common data warehouse. So extracting the data from multiple sources and integrating them and loading into data warehouse, called integrated characteristics. So here comes like ETL. ETL stands for extracting, transforming and loading the data. That is integrated characteristics. And the next is non-volatile. So this is a database where the transactional data will be stored. We can do all DML operations on the databases, like we can insert the data, we can change the data, we can delete the data, we can replace and do. We can do all DML operations on the database. Here in the data warehouse, once the data is loaded into the data warehouse, the data is used to generate the reports. Here comes the reporting tools into the picture. Okay, once the data is loaded, so reporting tools come into picture. And next, subject-oriented. So subject-oriented characteristics is like in the data warehouse, the data will be stored in the form of data marts. So like sales data will be stored in sales data mart, account data will be stored in account data mart, and loans data will be stored in loans data mart, and HR data will be stored in HR data mart. So this is forms like why we store in the data marts is like the data ritual will make easy when we store the data in data marts with the data warehouse. And the last characteristic is like time variant. So in the operational database, we'll be storing like current data or day-to-day transactional data will be stored in the databases. Whereas in the data warehouse, the main purpose of designing a data warehouse is like to store historical data of a business. So years of data is maintained in the data warehouses. Here only current data will be maintained. So if you see one more definition of a data warehouse, so data warehouse is a database which is specifically designed for analyzing the business but not for business transactional processing. Okay, so the main purpose of designing a data warehouse is like they are used to analyze the business but not for transactional processing. So transactional processing data will be stored in database. So if you see the difference between the data warehouse and the database, so OLAP and OLTP. So we can call it data warehouse as OLAP, online analytical processing systems, and database as OLTP, online transactional processing systems. So it involves in historical processing of information. Okay, so obviously the data warehouses are designed to process the historical information of data, and the database is involved to do process for day-to-day information or day-to-day transactional data will be stored in the database. It is used to analyze the business, it is used to run the business. So databases data is used to run the business. It is based on star schema and snowflake schema. It is based on entity relationship model. It contains historical data, so data warehouse contains historical data and databases contain current data. It provides summarized and consolidated data. It provides primitive and highly detailed data. And the data warehouse number of users will be hundreds. And here in the database, number of users will be thousands. Number of records access is millions, because the data warehouse obviously when we are maintaining historical data, the records count will be in millions. Whereas in the database, number of records access is in tens. The size of the database, so this is the main difference between the data warehouse and the database. Like the size of the database in data warehouse will be very huge compared to the database. Like in the data warehouse, the database size will be like 100 GB to 100 TB, and the database size like 100 MB to 100 GB. And who will be accessing the data which is in the data warehouse and the database? So the data which is there in the data warehouse is accessed by high-level management like executives, managers and analysts will be accessing the data which is there in the data warehouse. Whereas in the database, the data will be accessed by DBAs and data professionals. These are like basic differences between the database and the data warehouse. So this is architecture for data warehouse. Like these are the source systems. It can be any source system, like any kind of system which can store the data. And this is the data warehouse, and these are the end users who are accessing the data which is there in the data warehouse. And this is one more representation with staging area. These are store systems, and this is a warehouse, and these are end users. And this is the representation with staging area and data marts. So the data in the data warehouse is obviously stored in data mart. So purchasing data mart, sales data mart, and event. So the data which is there in the data mart, which is accessed by end users, and they will be generating the reports. So this is one more representation. So systems, staging area, data warehouse, and the data warehouse data is stored in form of data marts and the reports. So next is like data acquisition. So what is data acquisition? So it's a process of extracting relevant business information, transforming the data into required business format and loading into data warehouse. So ETL stands for extracting, transforming and loading. So data extraction, data transformation and data loading. So we call it as data acquisition process. So what is data extraction? So it is a process of reading data from various types of sources such as relational sources, ERP sources, nameplate sources and XML files and flat files. So we can read the data which is there in any kind of file, like that can be database, that can be mainframe file, that can be XML file, that can be file files. So for example, if it's a relational database, so Oracle and SQL Server, ERP files like SAP file, PeopleSoft, mainframe files like COBOL files, DB2 files, flat files like XML files and text files. Okay, so data extraction. And next is data transformation. So once we extract the data, the next is transforming the data. It's a process of cleansing the data and transforming the data into the required business format. Okay, once we extract the data, we need to transform the data as per the business requirement. The following transformation activities take place in staging area like data merging, data cleansing, data scrubbing and data aggregation. So what is data merging? So it's a process of combining data from multiple inputs and loading into single output. There are two types of data merging activities like join and union. So once we extract the data, so we want to combine the data from multiple and load into single output is called as data merging. And data cleansing is process of removing unwanted data from staging. So if you want to remove like round the numerical value to some extent. So such kind of operations we call as data cleansing. And next is data scrubbing. It's a process of designing new definitions using existing data. So for example, like you just want to combine the first name and last name and load it as username. Such kind of operations we call it as data scrubbing. And data aggregation. It's a process of calculating summaries of group of records using aggregate functions. So if you want to calculate the average, max of salaries and minimum of salaries, so such kind of operation we call it as data aggregation. So the last one is, once the extraction is done and the transformation of data is done, the last one is data loading. So what is data loading? It's process of inserting the data into target system. Okay, so once we transform the data, we need to load the data into data warehouse or target system. There are two types of data loads, initial or full load, increment or delta load. What is initial or full load? It's process of loading all required data at every first load. Incremental or delta load, the process of loading only new records of initial load. After initial load, so incremental or data loading. So we will be loading in incremental format in incremental data load. So that is like ETL. And what is the component need for the ETL? What do we need here? So the process of ETL is required so that data from different heterogeneous sources can be combined and brought into one common source. So we can just extract the data which is there in different sources, that can be any source, and put it in a common source, so that it is very easy for analyzing any business and it's easy for generating the reports and everything. So advantages having like a process of ETL is that as the data from different sources can be brought together, highly complex and user-friendly reports can be generated for decision making. So for any business to analyze the business, so we need to generate the reports. So these reports can be generated by the data which is there in the data warehouse. Okay, that is advantage. So what is disadvantage of the ETL tools? Like never creates new data. Okay, so we cannot create new data by using the ETL tools. So if there are 100 records or 100 employees data in my source database, so I cannot make it as 101 or 101. We can just use the data and we can just change the data, but we cannot create new record with the existing one. So that's the only disadvantage. We can do all manipulations with the data which is already there in the source system. So that's a disadvantage with the ETL tools. And popular ETL tools in the market apart from Informatica. So Informatica will be the leading one. Informatica is which is owned by Informatica Corporation, and DataStage, which is owned by IBM, Ab initio, this Ab initio Software Corporation, and Data Division, Privacy Software, Oracle Warehouse Builder, it's from Oracle Corporation, and Microsoft SQL Server Integration, it is from Microsoft. Okay, these are other ETL tools apart from Informatica in the market. And features of ETL tools: support data extraction, cleansing, aggregation, reorganization, transforming and loading operations. So all these operations can be performed by using ETL tools, any of the ETL tools. Filter data, convert row, calculate derived values, map source data values to target data fields. Everything can be performed. Automated generation of ETL programs, closely integrated with RDMS, high-speed loading of target data warehouse using engine-driven ETL tools. So these are the features of ETL tools. So this completes the demo part for Informatica online training. Thank you.